Welcome to TestTube, a place where we can share our knowledge through short videos. Even you can contribute to us by making a small video of any problem that you face in your life and how you have solved it. The video can be as short and as simple as possible, and you upload it in your Google Drive and share that link to us through that email that is shown over in this video. This way we can build a rich library having solution to any problem that anybody could possibly face in their life, and they can find a solution over here in this comment space. And by the way, the video will be uploaded with your name on it so that you can have all the credit for this. Thank you.
In this video, we are going to see how to read and write data into Excel sheet in Rest Assured. This is otherwise also called as data-driven testing in Rest Assured.
In our earlier session, we have seen passing the JSON response and do assertions, and also we have seen one more advanced step like validating the test results without using assertions, which is otherwise can be called as manually validating the results and manually marking the test case as passed or failure. So these are the most common steps which are necessary for automation. So that is one step, and now in this video let us move one more step ahead and learn how do we automate even more better. All right, and this is also important step for data driven automation, what we are going to do, and that is nothing else than reading the data from Excel sheet, which is the data source, and also writing the data into an Excel sheet. So this is going to be one more key step in the automation. Now we are going to see how this is done. Before that, let us have a look into the sample Excel sheet which I am going to use as a data source, right? So here I will have different test cases and I am going to feed the data per test case. Each test case is going to need different set of data. That's why it is important that we maintain it in a test data sheet where we can get data from and use it in our testing instead of making them as hard coded values. Okay, like we see here, we have passed different values, mm, this number, which can be varying from API to API. So instead of hard coding it, if we make it as a variable and we fetch that value into this variable from a data source, that can be database or Excel sheet. In this video we are going to talk about Excel sheet being the data source, right? So if that is possible, then it will be a better automation, and this is going to be our second step in the automation. So for this purpose, instead of taking get users as an example, I have took post users as a better example, because in post request we'll have some data to be posted. And this is not a new API. This is the API which we were discussing in our earlier videos. So if you wanted to know what this API is doing, how it is working, I would recommend to watch my previous videos. Alright, assuming that you know it, and how this is already structured, uh, let us just try to see it in our basic steps so that it will remind how it was earlier and how I made it now. Alright, so this is batch, this is post user 2. So like you see here, I'm going to pass this body parameters, which is name and job, and these are hard coded values. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get these details from this Excel sheet. Alright, I have defined the name and job, and I'm going to fetch them from that Excel sheet. Alright, for that I have to change this post user API, which was like this, into an API which is like this. Not just the data part, I also have reorganized the way that I am building the API request, like we discussed in our earlier video, so that it will be more structured way. Alright, such as separating the body and separating the post method by using this object of type request specifications. Unlike I have done everything at one shot over here. So this is more structured way. That's why it is done. You can see how I have done it, and uh, line by line I have explained it in my previous video. You can see it over there. Alright, now let us stick to the point. How do we fetch the data? Okay, so before I explain what is this lines of code, I will explain in a more practical and general way so that it will be easily understandable for all of us. Alright, so when I wanted to read some data, what I have first to do is I have to go to that folder and I have to open this Excel sheet having a name as testdata.xlx. So the first step is going to that. I have to open that Excel sheet and then I have to read it. The second step is going to that. I have to read it, right? So now let us understand how this is done in by coding. So first step is to open that Excel sheet, right? Like I said, so to open that Excel sheet, I should know where it is stored, right? So I have captured it here that this is the place where it is stored. It is test data XLS and this is the path. All right. So now I wanted to open this Excel sheet, right? So if it is manually, I go to the path and I just open it, right? But since we wanted to instruct the code to do this for us, there is something called file handlers or file objects which will do it for us. Okay. So now using this class a constructor, I have invoked an Excel file of uh, object instance for the file. So I have created a file object instance to handle that file which is placed in this data path, which is nothing but test data XLX, right? So this is how I'm telling to access that file. Now I have called another class which will be doing that operation of reading that file. So that is our step 2, right? Step 1 is open that file or access that file, and step 2 is read it from it. So to tell that instruction of reading it, I have to use this particular class, and I'm passing that file instance as an argument. So that is all. So now I'm ready to read that file. All right, now I'm talking about that is an Excel file. So since we are talking about an Excel file, if it is text, it is going to be different operations, right? So since it is an Excel file, I have to access that workbook and I have to access that particular sheet. So these two lines are going to do that for me, right? So now this is how I access an Excel file to read it. Now I have opened it to read. Let me start reading it. So these are the methods uh, which I have access to by this object called sheet. So we'll see sheet dot. There are many objects which you can use. Now our job is to get particular cell and what is stored in that cell, right? So for that, first I have to go to that row, get row. So after that, I go to that particular column, sorry, get cell. I should have given the valid over here, and now it will give me get cell. So like this, you can give the number and you can get access to it. All right. So this is already written over here. That's why I don't do it. I'll just explain it. Now I'm storing the value which is in row 1 cell 1 like we see here. So I'm storing this value in the name. I'm storing this value in the job. Right. So in the name I'm storing that value. In the job I'm storing that value. So this is how I have read that data from that Excel sheet. Alright, this is done now. I read it, and Now I'm doing the other things of building my request by setting up this URI and by setting the body parameters. To set the body parameters, I have used JSON object. Uh, you can see my other video to understand what this exactly means. Now I have passed this value which is stored in this variable to the body, which is getting from Excel sheet, right? So that is how I have passed the body parameters. Earlier what I have done is I have hard coded these values. Now I am getting those values from my Excel sheet, right? So now if I have sent that set the parameters, and I have sent the request, and I have collected the response over here, and these are the regular messages which I was printing. One is to print the response, the other one is to print the code, right? Now what we also can do is not just reading the data from here, we also can write some data into this Excel sheet. Now let us see how to write the data into Excel sheet. So I have already opened that Excel file, right? Since I have opened that file, uh, okay, let me explain it this way. Earlier we discussed about reading the file, which involves in two steps. One is open the file, and step two is read it, right? To write the file, what you have to do is you have to follow the same steps. First, access the file, which is step one, and open the file. In order to write it, first you you have to sort of do a read operation from keyboard, or the values which you wanted to write into it. So you read it from keyboard, and that's why whenever you wanted to do a write operation, it is imperative that first you do uh, it for reading. So access it for reading. So this is going to be common, not only for reading. This is also going to be common for writing. The only difference is that you write it, and to write it you have to use another class called file output stream, right? So this way it will let you write and commit what you wanted to write into your Excel sheet. All right, so now I have opened that file and have written something. So in order to write it, first I have to create the cells. So I have created the cells, uh, 3 4 5, and I am setting the cell types as string, numeric, and string, and I'm passing these values passed, status code, and the response into 3 4 5, right? I have first defined the cell types. I have created them and defined the cell types, and then I'm putting the value, I'm keeping the value into those cells. All right, that's what I have done. So in this case, let us try to understand the logic what I have done. If the status code is something related to mm, 201, which is for creating, I'm going to write this. If it has failed to do that operation, I'm going to write it as failure, and I'm going to mark what is the failure response. All right, that is what I have done, and I have instructed that it needs to be written into that Excel sheet, okay, which was opened in the beginning, the Excel file, right? This one. So I have instructed to write it into that, and then I have closed it. I have closed the workbook first, and then I have closed that file handler which we have opened for writing into it, and then I'm closing the entire file handler, right? So this is how we can read and write into Excel sheet. Now let me run this one. Let me set the other one as false. Okay, it's already set false. So let me run it. Before I run it, I have to close this one. See, this is success. And now let us see that Excel sheet. See, it has read this already, and it has printed the results which we wanted to print it. All right. So this is how we can do it. And now let me show you one more interesting stuff. So as you see here, this is something which you have to do it for, which you may have to do it for many of the test cases. All right. So as you understand, this is going to be repetitive, right? Since it is repetitive, why don't we make it as a reusable code, right? So I have read operation and write operation, which I may have to do it for many of the test cases which I'm going to maintain, right? So that's why what we do is, let us make it reusable. For that, what we can do is, we can create a package of the name library where we can manage our reusables. So that will be a good practice. And I have created this particular uh, class called data handler. Under it, I have created two methods. One is to read the data and the other one is to write the data, right? So what I have done is, I have kept these lines of codes which will read, and the other set of codes which will write into a reusable method. Hmm, I've just done it. And I'm taking the arguments as the path and the row and the column which I wanted to mm, read the data from and write the data into, right? So, and I'm also passing what I wanted to write, all right, in case of writing it. And I'm also defining the type of the cell which I wanted to write in case of write. In case of reading, it's just the row, column, and the path. In case of writing, I'm sending the path and what I wanted to write and where I wanted to write and what is the type of cell I want to write into. Right. So that is how smartly you can create a reusable method and reuse it. So now let us see the same example, which is post user, and this time by using the reusable methods. All right. So post user to no change. I have set the data path. So instead of writing this entire logic, what I have done is, I have just called this method, which is read data from this class data handler. Alright, so since I wanted to call it from a different class which is in different package, I have to import that package first, right? So I have imported this package data handler, the class from this package. I have done it, and I have created an object for data handler which is dh. So by using that object of this class, I have access to this method read data. Alright, so what I have done is, our second step is to read something, right? That's what we have done earlier. So instead of writing this code, I have called that read method. I have given the data path and I have given the row and column where I wanted to read the data from. Similarly, I have read another column which is for job. So I read name and job using the reusable method. Then I call the request, and then I send that request, and then I have to write it. So for that, again, I use this object, and that object has access to different methods. One is to read and one is to write. Here I wanted to write. So I call this write method, and I have to give the data path. So I have given the data path. I have defined it in the beginning, and I wanted to write something. So I wanted to write pass here. Where I wanted to write is in row 1 column 3, and the type what I wanted to write is string type. So that is how I can define. So I have written pass, I have written status code, I have written the string. So this time by using the reusable methods. All right. So now I have removed everything. I'll run this test case and see whether it is working or not. See, the result is success. It has created ID with 54, 201 is the response. Now let us see if it is there in that Excel sheet. So you can see that it is printed, right? So this is how it is done. And before we close it, I'll just do it uh, in this video, how easy it is going to be if I am using reusable methods. So for that, instead of showing what is already there, I'll write it now itself. So let us take the example of get user header and authentication test case, and let me write something now itself, so that you will understand how easy it is going to be if I'm taking the help of the reusable methods. Okay, this is the one. So what it is doing is it has nothing to get because it is not a post request. So now let us write something into that Excel sheet. Now I have called this object and I wanted to write something. So let me call this write method. What I wanted to write, where I wanted to write is in the data path, right? Okay, data path is already defined. So okay, it's good. So now let us keep data path as it is. Now what I wanted to write. So let us see what I wanted to write. Okay, I wanted to write the status, response code and response. Okay, the test status is something I just wanted to write it as passed. Okay, now I where I wanted to write is I wanted to write it in second row 0 1 2 3, third column 0 1 2. Okay, row number 2, column number 3. And what is the type I wanted to write? Cell type dot. This is a string, right? So string, right? Okay, now let me do it for the other two columns as well. See how easy it is going to be. I wanted to write something on fourth and fifth. What I wanted to write, I wanted to write the response code. So where is the response code? This is the response code. Alright, what is it? It is of type numeric, right? So numeric. And what I wanted to write at the end, the response, which is this. And this is string. Okay, let us leave as it is. So now let me keep it as true. So this test is something which I marked it to run, and this is also another test I marked it to run. So now we are going to run two test cases and see what happens. Okay, both are failed. Okay, I understand. See, the Excel sheet is open over here, and that's why it would have failed. Let us see. Yes, yes, that's why it has failed. I closed it now. Let me run it again. let's see, no failures. Let me open that Excel sheet and see what is what has happened for those two test cases. See, it has written the response what I wanted to write. For the second test case, this is the response. Let me just cross check. Get users. Yes, this is the response. Right. Page 2, yes, so on. So yes, perfect. So this is how we can do it. Now, so far what we have seen is we have advanced to three steps in automation. One is doing assertions and passing the JSON response, and the step two is going to be mm, using different methods other than assertions, where we can do little more things. And step three is going to be using the methods which will fetch the data from Excel sheet and write it into Excel sheet and making them as reusable methods. So these are the three steps which are very important in any automation. Alright, so if you are able to understand these three steps, then you are going to be exporting, automating APIs. So in our next videos, we are going to see some more advanced videos of uh, how to use extent reporting in REST assured, which is an important aspect of automation. That is how we are reporting what we are doing, right? So that is something which we are going to see, and also we are going to build a framework in 5 minutes. So that's what it is going to be in our next videos. Uh, Please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and thank you.
If you have any videos like this, please upload them in your Google Drive and share that link to us in that email given over here, so that we can upload it for you with your name on it. And that way we can build a common repository where anybody can find solution to the problems which they are facing. Thanks for your support, and please subscribe to this channel if you wanted to see more videos like this. Bye.